Good evening. This is The Probe, and tonight the General Secretary of the NDC, Aseidu Nketia, we call him General Mosquito, has agreed to be probed by you on current happenings in the National Democratic Congress, parliamentary controversies, and burning national issues, of course. With Mr. Aseidu Nketia, you know that there's never a dull moment. Social media pages are active right now. You have to get interactive. We're live on the Joy News channel here on your digital terrestrial platform, on Joy 99.7 FM on radio, plus a dozen affiliates across the country. On DSTV channel is 421, Go TV is 144. We're also live on myjoyonline.com, Facebook, Twitter, etc. So you can put your comments there as well. I am Meme Fapau, and it's a good time to welcome Mr. Aseidu Nketia once again. Good evening, Mr. Aseidu Nketia.
Good evening, madam.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight on The Probe. What a week it's been. You're just returning from Ho?
Yes, from Ho.
And I'm sure we have a Ho accord?
Oh, well, I wouldn't call it an accord, but we have a Ho understanding. Yeah.
We have an understanding. What kind of understanding do we have?
Well, we decided to do a training workshop. The minority caucus in Parliament decided to do a training workshop because we have a lot of new MPs having been produced out of the just ended elections.
Okay.
And so there is a need to take them through training.
Okay. And I'm sure amongst others, the issues about whether we are reviewing the leadership of the minority came up. We'll talk about it. But by the way, we were in Sombo together. Beautiful kente you had on there. Do we have a name for it?
Well, not that I know about, but I know the weavers certainly will have a name for it. Yes.
Well, we have that and more in tonight's edition of The Probe. We're right back after the break. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us here on The Probe. Like I said, we're live on Joy 99.7 FM, also on DSTV channel 421. You can get us. I see a number of your questions that you've already sent in, and tonight we'll attempt to answer all the questions because Mr. Aseidu Nketia is ready for you. He's ready to be probed by you. And before we went on the break, we've been talking about hope and whether there was an accord, because we're asking that because before you went to Ho, there were issues being raised that there's a possible review of the leadership of the minority in Parliament. Did that come up? What is the status of that?
No, that is not the purpose of the workshop at all.
Okay.
The purpose of the workshop was about team building, how the caucus can work together. You realize that this election produced about over 60 new NDC MPs. And there is no training school for, people who are preparing to go to Parliament. So they come to Parliament from all backgrounds. So there is a need, immediately they enter Parliament, to take them through some training so that you can begin introducing the rudiments of their work to them and how they need to come together because they float or sink together. So the theme for the workshop was team building.
Team building.
And it was highly successful.
Okay, and issues about leadership of the minority did not come up. When exactly is that review going to take place, or they stay? Have they been affirmed now?
No, this is some work that is in progress, as I have said on other platforms. It is a usual practice that after every election, because of changes in the composition of the caucus, we always have to take a second look at the leadership. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to, change the leadership. But you need to do a review and to see whether you remain where you are or there is a need for changes. That process started, and in the middle, we had to suspend it because of our court case. And we made a public announcement about it, that because of the public case, we are suspending the process of reviewing the leadership until after the court case, because depending upon the outcome of the court, it may influence what we do in the composition of leadership. So now that we have the court issue off the table, we are now comfortable to go back to continue the work and complete it.
Okay, but as a General Secretary of the NDC, are you confident in the leadership of the minority in Parliament?
I've always been confident about my leadership in Parliament, no doubt about that.
Okay.
I'm equally confident in other people who are not in the leadership. So the factors that determine whether we should change leadership or maintain leadership always are not just about confidence. There are many other things that influence the leadership. For instance, if we won and the government or the president will be compelled to select majority of his ministers from Parliament, okay, so that brings new dynamics. So the president may decide to pick some of the people in leadership into other ministerial positions, and so new vacancies are created and all that. If we don't win, there are instances where key members of the leadership might have lost their seats and all that. So we take all these things into consideration in the review of our leadership. That is the frontline leaders and committee chairmen and all that. So it's a very comprehensive thing, and the purpose is to get a team that can prosecute our agenda in Parliament. Knowing
what you know as a General Secretary, also on the Parliamentary Services Board, do you think that the leadership of your side has been compromised?
Not at all. But why are we talking about compromising leadership of my side? I don't think that. I have heard about those things, but that is the burden of every leader, you know. And this brings us to even my appointment as a member of the Parliamentary Service Board. Immediately the news came, there were attempts by some detractors to frame up issues to let it look like my appointment was a bargain for the approval of some ministers and other things.
Was it not a bargain? Was there not some kind of trade or exchange for that to happen?
You can go and ask Chairman Sabunsu. He will tell you whether it is.
Because he tells me that your side was under pressure to field you as a member of the Parliamentary Service. So I'll bring it shortly.
So who put my side under pressure? If it is not MPP, then how could I have been compromised? Because MPP would, excuse my language, look stupid if they go to pay money to get somebody they don't like to be on the Parliamentary Service Board. So I think that those are some of the burdens of being in leadership. So just take it in your stride.
So there were calls for Mr. Haruna Iddrisu to be removed, for instance. Do you share in that view?
Calls from where?
From members within your party, for instance, asking that he's removed or he resigns. Entire leadership, they say, has been compromised. Is a view you share?
Those calls have always been there. People have called for my resignation. People have called for the resignation of the national chairman. And indeed, people have called for the resignation of our flag bearer and all that. So these are issues that don't influence what we do. Decisions are made on proper scientific analysis of every situation and to look at possible alternative courses of action, and then you eliminate them one by one until you arrive at the right decision. So that is the proper process of decision making. It is not about people calling from elsewhere, whether they have basis or no basis, then you begin taking action. Leadership doesn't work that way. And I have always maintained that leadership is always not about doing what your people want you to do. It's not always like that. It is important that leaders listen. But if leadership is just about gathering opinions of the led and then converting it into a course of action, then computers will be better leaders than human beings because they will do that better. But the difference between computers and leaders is that the leader will take the views of the led into consideration and take other experiences that have been gained and then some superior information that the leader may have which the followers may not have, so that they can arrive at a decision that will eventually be in the interest of even the followers.
Okay, well, since we are unpacking issues, especially in Parliament, I would want you to watch this briefly, that interview I had with the Majority Leader, Aseidu Nketia. Portions of it briefly, then I'll come to you on it.
Yes, not Aseidu Nketia as an individual. Aseidu Nketia as being a member of Parliament, right? And one-on-one, he's an intelligent person. And maybe if he has to contribute to developing Parliament, he could. My worry is his current position as the General Secretary. It's never happened in the life of Parliament before, right? Especially when you have a very intrusive General Secretary, when even in the course of normal business of Parliament, you come and sit there to ensure that his people vote in a certain direction.
What are you afraid of?
I'm not afraid of anything but I'm afraid for Parliament. See, these are the little steps that we take that affect the integrity of Parliament. In that we are putting Parliament in the armpit of one political party. Because for the first time in the history of Ghana,
the Speaker from the NDC,
you have brought in Kofi Ato, who is the vice chairman of the party. And you are saying that is a...
You brought him as what?
His advisor. So Kofi Ato is there. He's brought in two former
We're
MPs.
told Ken Jirasa is also there.
Come again?
We're told there are others. Ken Jirasa is part.
I don't know of Ken.
Who are the other two?
Amwate is. And Shaibu, Daboya Mankarago.
What are they doing in the Speaker's office?
He says he's bringing them on as advisors. So you have these two former MPs. And then you have Kofi Ato, vice chairman of the party, Aseidu Nketia, general secretary of the party, and a former, I think he didn't have an official position, but more or less, unofficially, everybody knew that he was a communicator for the party.
Who is that?
Gayhat Mensah.
Okay. Also coming as what?
Yes, he's also coming as to the Speaker's office. So you are turning that place into an enclave for the NDC.
So key things that came out of that, from what you've just said, describing you as very intrusive. It looks like the party is interfering unnecessarily with work of your side, and then also the Speaker with the appointments that he's mentioned, including yourself on the Parliamentary Services Board. You're turning Parliament into an NDC enclave.
So,
first, are you intrusive?
First of all, what was NDC before Bagbin came? What was Parliament before Bagbin came? If you are talking about turning something into another state, you should be interested in knowing the original state of that institution. Before Bagbin came, what was Parliament? Was it an enclave of MPP?
Was it?
And I'm asking him, he should be answering that question, because the Speaker was MPP. The former members of Parliament who should serve on the Parliamentary Board were from MPP leadership. Okay? And I don't want to believe that the workers and the advisors of the Speaker at that time were CPP. You understand? So if they were all MPP at that time, and now you have another Speaker, I am wondering whether Mr. Aseidu was expecting Bagbin to appoint his opponents to advise him. You are talking about advisors. People choose their advisors. How come that? Do you know that the Council of State is there to advise the president? The immediate the current Council of State, it was constituted some 1 month ago. Mention one person who was nominated from NDC. Was there any one of them? The president was choosing his advisors, so he decided to choose MPP people.
But
so I'm worried about people who cannot use parity of reasoning. Okay, they when something suits them, they argue in a certain way. They argue that this paper is white. Then the next day, the same people will be arguing that this paper is black or blue. That is not the way to build credibility. Okay, so I didn't expect James Bonsu, who was all over the place. When we were accusing the president of nepotism in his appointment and so on, James was all over the place saying that, did we expect the president to appoint his enemies as ministers? So what has changed? If you don't expect Nana Akufo-Addo to appoint his enemies as ministers and his advisors, why do you want to expect Bagbin to appoint his enemies or opponents as his advisors?
But for him, as a sitting general secretary,
yes,
to be appointed onto that board, for him, it poses a certain form of danger for Parliament. At least there are other...
Who said that Parliament is run on the fears of Chairman Bonsu? Parliament is run according to the law. You are having their standing copies of the standing order. He should be quoting and telling us maybe the constitution is against this, maybe the standing orders is against this. But what he's saying, he's not communicating to anybody. He's just expressing his fears. But unfortunately, Parliament is not run on the basis of the fears of Chairman Bonsu. It's run on the laws. It's run on the laws.
Okay, so it's okay because you're a former MP.
Don't ask me, go and ask Bagbin.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't appoint myself. You understand? So you go and ask the person who took the decision whether his decision was founded on law or was not founded on law. I don't have any business answer. It's like if I were to appear before appointments committee and you are asking me why the president decided to appoint me and not another person else. How would I know how the president was thinking when he decided to settle on me? Okay, so, but the good thing I like about the interview is that at least he recognizes my level of intelligence. He recognizes my experience because I was in Parliament 4 years before he came, and I did 12 years in Parliament. People who have done 8 years in Parliament have served on the Parliamentary Service Board. I've been 12 years in Parliament. I've been in the front bench of Parliament, front bench in government in Parliament, back bench in government in Parliament, front bench in opposition in Parliament, back bench in opposition in Parliament, and I have chaired several parliamentary meetings, and I have chaired boards of state institutions. So I don't know what else. I don't know what else they expect. But the good thing about the interview is that, well, as I've said, it came to clear the air, you know, about some orchestrations that were cooking, that maybe Aseidu Nketia has changed this position for you know, the approval of ministers and so on. To tell you what, this appointment was offered to me as far back as January. Okay.
Before the nomination of ministers?
Before the nomination of ministers, it was offered to me as far back January. Because Parliament and its institutions had to be constituted to prepare to receive and vet ministers. So it was around that time that this appointment was offered to me. And immediately it came, I responded and gave my consent.
Okay.
Then there was some lacuna for a very long time. I went to ask what was happening. And I was told that MPP was objecting to that appointment. So that was why it was delayed.
What reason were they given for rejection of the appointment?
Well, maybe you ask Chairman Sabos, he has given you those reasons. Whether they are cogent or not is about their business. Okay. So this is an appointment that has been contested severely to a point where I heard people were saying any other person in the whole world is preferable to Aseidu Nketia. But Bagbin also said that he wanted Aseidu Nketia over any other person in the whole world. That's how he put his feet down.
Okay.
And if you like to know the arguments between Bagbin and Chairman Sambonsu, these were some of the underlying currents that led to that argument. But Bagbin, I'm happy that Bagbin put his feet down, and I'm happy to accept the appointment because I want Speaker Bagbin to succeed.
Okay. Well, there are related questions on this, so maybe we'll just bring it in quickly. Then we can get all the answers to all the questions on this. So let's put that question out. There's a question related to this. So this one says, doesn't he think serving on the Parliamentary Service Board will make him and the NDC executives less effective in getting the minority to sit up and properly hold government to account? Won't he become overly engulfed in this so-called national interest business, which we all know in practical terms is actually Dibima Mindibi?
Then, if that is the case, why should MPP be worried? Because if I become less effective, it makes their job easier. So it should be people from my party who should be complaining that I will be less.
But that's the concern.
No, that is not. This concern is coming from NPP, and I'm saying yes, it's coming from MPP. That's what MPP communicators have been repeating. I say, if you are going into a match and the goalkeeper on the other side has a problem with the hands, is that not an advantage to you? So why should you be weeping than the widow?
Okay.
Okay. So it tells you that they are not sincere in those assessments. They should leave NDC to run our own business. If my acceptance of that appointment will make my work less effective, it goes to the advantage of MPP, so they shouldn't be raising those issues.
Okay, so let's take the next batch of questions at this point. We'll go on Facebook. I see another question on Facebook. On Sami Jemfi's comments and inciting party against minority leadership in Parliament, how exactly did the party deal with it to avoid future occurrence? Kofi is asking that. Maybe we can add a few more to it. Safu is also saying that even before vetting started, you had presented a list of between 7 to 9 nominees that should be rejected even before they justify their inclusion. True? That's what Safu is asking. Do we have another question? Kingsley says there seemed to be a subtle ambush of minority in Parliament by the NDC party. Having been a parliamentarian before, should party considerations hold sway over constituents' expectations? And what does he say to the view that the party has failed to manage grassroots expectations of the minority in Parliament? Okay, so we'll take responses to some of the questions that have come in. Maybe we'll start with the Sami Jemfi one.
Sami Jemfi, what is Sami Jemfi's issue? There was expectation on the front of the party that our MPs were going to act in a certain way relating to the approval or otherwise of the nominees. That didn't happen, and almost everybody in the party was disappointed. We were disappointed.
You were disappointed
too?
We were
disappointed, and the grassroots was complaining. They needed some ventilation of their frustrations. So leadership had to speak the language of the grassroots. We have challenges about how Sami's statements turn out. Okay, but I'll not begrudge him too much because leadership is at levels. And if it were somebody on the national executive who has served in Parliament before and is very conversant about the procedures and processes in Parliament, maybe the statement would have been couched differently. So the fact that Sami Jemfi ventilated the voice of the of the rank and file of the party, it's not the problem. The problem was how the statement was couched, and we've gone beyond that.
Okay, so the party, the rank and file, does not really see anything wrong with the things that he put out, because he voiced.
Oh, in actual fact, the rank and file are hailing Sami Gyamfi.
Oh,
you understand?
Okay.
But the problem is that for some of us, who know about the workings of Parliament, the rules of Parliament, and so on, we felt that the statement, parts of the statement, were not in good taste. And so that is where the problem is, rather in Accra and not at the grassroots.
Okay, so the party does not have any issue with inciting the grassroots against the minority leadership in Parliament, because that's what the statement sought to do.
No, I have summarized this in to say that how the statement was couched was problematic. But the fact that somebody in leadership will be ventilating the views of the grassroots was acceptable. Okay. You understand? Okay. The move was good, but the process or the vehicle was problematic. And we've since had discussions.
How has it been dealt with?
It has been resolved.
How has it been dealt with?
It has been resolved.
How was it resolved?
I don't think that that is necessary for the public.
It's not?
No, it has been resolved. The important thing the public should be interested in.
Did it not cause a rift between himself or some of the rank and file and the minority in Parliament?
Yeah, it did, but it has been resolved.
So everything is fine now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so...
And that is part of the reason why we started this series of meetings and so on. You know, sparks of truth emanate from clashes of opinion. So you cannot have an organization where there are no clashes of opinion. That organization will be dead. Okay. So we welcome clashes of opinion because it is from there that sparks of truth will emanate. And when these clashes are threatening to go beyond bounds, leadership will step in and make sure that...
So it raises the first issue that we're talking about the party interfering unnecessarily with the work of the minority in Parliament. The first Deputy Speaker has had called to raise it, they're the majority leader. Now this statement also that was issued by Sami Gyamfi. No, the party interfering unnecessarily with the work of your side in Parliament. It appears that every single decision they make, the party wants to have a stake in it. I
have heard this argument over and over again, and it gives me the impression that somebody thinks that the party is what is at Abraka, and that the party is not in Parliament. The party is actually in Parliament. And where we are now, Parliament is the strongest representation of the party. So it must not be seen as if the party is outside and then Parliament is also, the caucus in Parliament is also. If you take the copy of our constitution, see that our constitution, our party is organized on about 5 legs. You have the women's wing, semi-autonomous women's wing, semi-autonomous youth wing, semi-autonomous parliamentary wing, and then semi-autonomous international wing, and then we just added the Zongo caucus. Okay, these are all wings of the party, and it is they who come together as integral organs of the party. So the party NDC will not be NDC without our parliamentary wing. So nobody should deceive themselves that the party is standing somewhere and the parliamentary caucus is also standing somewhere, and when there is interface between party caucus in Parliament and national leadership, it amounts to interference. Those who don't understand how our party works will argue like that. Fortunately, our party people have not complained. Our caucus in Parliament has not complained about any interference.
Okay.
And if you take the number of issues that are dealt with in Parliament and the number of times that you see that party leadership, inclusive of the minority leadership, have taken a position that this is party position, just about 1% of the issues. You understand? 1% of the issues. And that is how all parliaments work. The officers in the leadership of parliament, of our caucus, they are officers of the party in parliament. That is why you have NDC whip, NDC leader, NDC deputy leader, and so on in parliament. They are officers of the party. They constitute leadership of our parliamentary wing of the NDC. And so they participate in meetings of the national executive.
But you mentioned the number of wings. Do they all come under such pressure like your parliamentary wing?
Why? What? I don't understand the pressure you are talking about. The NDC is a party that has come, a group of people that have come together to form a party because we believe in a certain, ideas about how the state should be run.
Okay.
And so we form an organization and go to contest for power. And then with the hope that when we win, those ideas we believe in will be implemented in governing the country. So we should be reminding ourselves that these are the ideas we share. So when there is an opportunity for any decision to be taken, and it goes down to rock some of the key principles that we share together as NDC members, both in parliament, outside parliament, and so on, we should agree to remind ourselves that this is a core principle that we cannot compromise with. And so you are at the forefront. Please discharge your obligations towards the party. Okay. And it is legitimate everywhere, unless those who don't understand how parliaments work.
Okay, so there was a question also said, even before vetting started, you had presented a list of nominees that should be rejected, even before they justify their inclusion. Safo is asking if that is true, because we heard Jose Wusu, for instance, say that the chairman of the appointments committee, that is what they were told.
Who communicated that to him? Did he tell you who communicated to him that this was a list of appointees?
Members, he says, but did not say who.
We cannot argue on the basis of this. But let me tell you what. Many of the ministers have worked as ministers in this country. And we have seen their performances even before this reappointment. There are some about whom calls have been made to be reshuffled. You've heard it. And there are certain policies that they've undertaken which appeared offensive to the public and to the NDC. And so what is wrong with party agreeing that because of what this person has done, or what this person represents, he should not be allowed to become a minister? What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. So you don't do any thing like that.
So you had a few of them that you didn't want to be, you approved as ministers, as a party.
Oh, sure. There were several of them, but the controversy came because we were not even agreeing on the number. You understand? Okay. Because we all watched the what do you call it? The vetting processes and so on. And even in your house, if you go and review, or if Joy FM decides to do a review of the vetting, I'm sure you also arrive at some conclusions about who should be, who is qualified to be a minister and who is not qualified to be a minister. But what has happened has happened. And so my belief is that the strength of a man is not in not falling, but in rising each time he falls. Okay. So I think that once we have risen above these things and put our party together, held this workshop for them, for team building and so on, we shouldn't be focused in the past
we'll bring some of the issues
like
in the
elephants
past.
looking in the past.
Well, some brief issues also on that. Then we can move on to some of the issues happening in the party and national issues as well. Yeah. There's one question also on why did the party instruct the minority in parliament to approve Ken Ofori-Atta? Is what the party did not an overreach? Shouldn't MPs advance the best interest of their constituents instead of party? Is one of the questions that this anonymous person is sending. And via Facebook.
He should hold up and bring
Komando says, MFI, you know, they say because Ken has messed up, he should continue, and that will help NDC to secure victory in 2024. Are they thinking about the nation or their parochial partisan interest? Do they want to take over a destroyed nation with economy in tatters? Because that's Gumado asking also.
Does NDC, does MPP share the belief that Ofori-Atta is destroying the economy? If that is so, why would they renominate him?
So you would want Ghanaians to endure him another 4 years?
No. Ghanaians have not given us the power to appoint a minister.
But you could.
Ghanaians have not given us a power to appoint ministers.
But you said that your party decided that your side should approve him.
Listen, they have even not given us sufficient power to fail ministers. You understand? So that should be made very, very clear. If Ghanaians had given us the power to appoint ministers, we will be in government. Ghanaians have chosen that you are the person we want. We believe in your judgment as Akufo-Addo. And he has, through his exercise his judgment in retaining a finance minister. And you are coming to accuse us. You are not accusing the person who did the nomination.
But you approved it by consensus.
Listen, I'm saying that you are not who brought him. Or you think that if Ofori-Atta had been rejected, then the next person will be Ato Forsen. Is that what you are expecting? If Ofori-Atta is rejected, the same Nana Akufo-Addo will nominate. And he may nominate a worse person than Ofori-Atta. So if you have any blame, put it on the person who did the nomination. Because our numbers, even if we all voted against him, he will still be minister. So the problem is not with the approval. The problem is with the nomination.
Well,
are they not 138?
Yes, they are 138.
Yes, if they are all there and voting, and we are 137, and their president has nominated this man, judging by the history of MPP, have you seen them rejecting the president nominee before?
Okay, so 137, 138, does it then not mean more cooperation? Why then are you worried when there's a seeming cooperation between your side and then the NPP? At least that's the concern that most of your party members
who is worried? I thought you are worried that we have asked that they should approve Ken Ofori-Atta by consensus. Is that no cooperation?
Because you said it's lame there.
If that is the cooperation, then why are you asking whether we are worried? We are not worried. It is the MPP itself that is worried. You see, the problem is that maybe some people within MPP don't like Ken Ofori-Atta. You understand? And they don't have the courage to come out to tell the president that we don't like your cousin to be minister. And they think that we are the vehicle they can use.
Have they approached you to do that?
No, because if they are not expecting MPP MPs to join us in failing Ofori-Atta, how are they expecting NDC by itself with 137 against 138 to disqualify Ofori-Atta? How are they expecting us?
So you're sure that there
So the nation has not given us the power to appoint ministers. It has not given us the power to even disqualify ministers. Okay, so for sentimental reasons or some reasons of principle or something, we could have voted 137 against all their ministers, but they could have all gone through as ministers. So those who are worried that those people should not be ministers, they should put the blame on the one who did the nomination and not the one who should have expressed a voice that couldn't have prevented the people from becoming ministers.
They could have expressed the voice so that Ghanaians know that you were against his nomination.
So let the Ghanaians also talk. We are all the same. Let the Ghanaians talk. and let us talk, because the Ghanaians cannot prevent, if they cannot prevent Nana Addo from nominating his ministers, and we cannot block the ministers from being approved because of the votes that we have. You see, the accusation would be legitimate if we had majority. Okay, then we will say that, well, if you don't bring us a person of this caliber, we are voting against the person. We have the power to implement what we want to do. But you are accusing us when you deny us the power to reject the nominees. And you say that we should make noise, so the noise will satisfy you. Is that what you want? You don't want the people to be ministers. So speak to the president that the people you have nominated are the wrong people. You don't turn your guns on us because we are in opposition and because we don't have the capacity, knowing very well that we don't have the capacity to fail them. You understand? So, but I understand the feeling of our grassroots perfectly, because our party stands for certain things, and they expect that we should stand for those principles, whatever it takes. Whether we win or we don't win, we should stand for those principles. And I believe that that is where they feel disappointed that things didn't work this way.
And they don't have a just cause?
And yeah, they do. That's why I'm saying that we were all disappointed by the first approvals. But when you come to the last one, you have a situation where it was like, 80 or whatever number of ministers who constitute cabinet. Even if one is dropped, what change does it make? Because decisions are approved, and the person who will be dropped, there is, first of all, there's no guarantee that you have the means to drop him. Okay? And even if you succeed in dropping him, Nana Addo can renominate him. There's no law preventing Nana Akufo-Addo from renominating the same person. Okay? There is no law that provides that if we fail a minister, then the opposition party will bring the minister they think can run the place according to their principles. We don't have that power yet. If the electorate gave us that power, we will exercise it. But whatever criticism that is leveled against us, it's okay. But the biggest problem should be on the president, because the people have given the president the mandate to choose the type of ministers who can run the country well. That power has not been given to NDC. Okay. So if the president exercises that power wrongly, and we have the power to criticize but not to stop him, I don't see how you go praising him and then you turn around to say that we have done that. Because
you have not exercised the power to raise concerns about it. And that's the concern. So let's quickly leave Parliament, because we have to talk about the NDC and national issues also coming up. But since we are in Parliament, briefly, the issue about Mr. Okudzeto Ablakwa's resignation, I see it run through also. I don't know
if it is one of the issues that has
in the past, but we need to know, because since you've gone to the workshop today, I'm sure that you've brought a closure to that particular matter. How exactly has the party dealt with it? What exactly is the party's understanding of that?
Well, we didn't feel the need to hold meetings about that resignation at all. First of all, the letter was addressed to the speaker, not to the party. There's leadership.
And that's a parliamentary wing. That you are very.
I'm saying that the letter was addressed not to the party, not to the leadership of the party in Parliament, but to the speaker. So that in itself generates problems as to how we should be dealing with it. So we haven't had any meetings about it. But if you ask my personal view, I would say that I don't understand the letter sufficiently to be able to express an opinion. Because the letter simply said that he's resigning based on principle and also for personal reasons, and that he will not be participating in the vetting of deputy ministers. It is so open-ended. When you talk about principle, what principle are we talking about? He hasn't expatiated on the type of principle, but if you glean from the contents of the letter, it is perfectly possible for somebody to agree to argue that, well, maybe he believes that the same group of people who vetted the minister should not be vetting their deputies. So on principle, he doesn't want to be part of the group that will be vetting deputies, so he has to resign. It is perfectly legitimate for somebody to think like that. But if it has something to do with the work that has been concluded on the vetting of the main ministers, then my humble view is that the resignation is belated. And even if it is not belated, it should go further to explain. You understand? Because you see, if I take myself as an example, I was on the appointment committee for 12 years. There are occasions where I took a position against not only my party, but the whole parliament. So I was one person against 199 members of parliament. But I succeeded in disqualifying somebody and prevented him from becoming a minister. There are others which I worked against and spoke openly against. I told everybody in Ghana where I stood
on that issue,
on those issues. And I had to fight Freddie Blay, who was the chairman of the appointment committee, both in the media, on the floor of parliament, on the floor of the committee, and so on. So everybody understood the principle I was defending. Okay. But it is not so in this case. What we see is that the appointments committee approves all the ministers by consensus. And the appointment committee includes Honorable Ablakwa. Okay. Then you come out to resign and say because of principle. What principle? If your view is that these people should not be approved, it should have reflected in your position against the consensus positions at the committee level. And it should have been ventilated also on the floor of the House, so they know that this is what this man stands for. Okay. So if you participate in all that, and you have to resign, my humble view is that you resign and offer and offer some apology that you have acted in certain ways and let against certain principles that you hold here, so you are apologizing your followers
so the
who expected you
come with an apology.
At the time it came, because if it had come earlier, when the approval was about to happen, and you said that, look, I am against it. If there is any pressure brought to bear on you to act in ways that you didn't agree, you say that, look, I will choose to resign rather than remaining here to participate in this approval.
Have you had cause to speak to him?
No, we haven't discussed that.
You haven't?
I've met him, but we haven't discussed that.
This is not an important issue for you at all that you should find out?
No, you don't cry over spilled milk. You know, if you have malaria and you take chloroquine, you may be cured. But what will be the use of chloroquine injection? I'm told they have stopped chloroquine now. Is what, artesunate or something?
So
what
you
is
think
chloroquine
this is
injection
like
to somebody who is dead of malaria? If you go to inject a dead body with chloroquine, So it's a dead issue. I don't think that it is an issue that we should discuss at all. So the party has not held a meeting on it at all.
On that you don't take it seriously as a party at all?
No, I'm saying that we don't understand the basis upon which we should be acting, because the thing is not straightforward. If you act that, if I'm a general secretary and you say that general secretary, because you are a general secretary, this is what we want you to do. And I think that course of action is against my conscience. I'll tell you that I prefer to act according to my conscience than to remain here.
And not after the fact.
I have resigned as a general secretary.
Okay.
You understand? Okay. Not after I have participated in the thing, then I come to resign. The resignation, is it going to take any vote from the ministers that have been approved by consensus? Okay.
Well, so briefly also, since we are still in Parliament, we thankfully have some extension that we'll discuss the other issue.
I thought that we had done.
But really, I'd want to find out, since you are now going to start working on the Parliament, at least you've accepted, that appointment. I'd want to find out, there were issues that the Parliamentary Service Board, the previous one, was dealing with before they went off. Issues about the parliamentary chamber came up.
I don't know.
Is it worth considering?
I don't know about that yet, and I don't want to talk about that. I'm not there yet. I have not been inaugurated and so on, so I don't want to.
But since you've accepted it, is it something that you? I
am not. I have not been given anything, so I'm not going to talk about that. And I believe that we have had sufficient discussion.
As a member going on that,
I am saying we have had sufficient. My view is that we have had sufficient. We have spent all the time on this, and the advert was about this and other national issues. Yes. So I thought that if we moved on to other national issues.
We'll definitely move on to, but we're just hoping that.
But you don't have time. You are told that.
We have some extension that we'll be talking about that also. So let's talk about the NDC. Briefly, then we can talk about other issues. I've seen some questions also about what
all that we have been talking about is NDC. So we have.
What's the state of the party, you'd say?
The state of the party is robust. Yes.
There have been questions about whether you think it's time for the flag bearer, for instance, to step aside for someone else to come in, at least Mr. John Mahama. They're asking if you think that he should still put himself up. Is it not time for someone else?
I'm not the person who appoints a flag bearer for the party.
Your constitution gives you 2 years to start looking at that, but once we are going into that...
That's why I'm saying that the constitution...
What do you think?
I said my thinking is immaterial because I will be a judge. So I don't have to judge issues before they come before me.
You'll be a judge because you'll still be the general secretary. You're still putting yourself up for general secretary position?
No, I am now a general secretary. I'm not discussing my future yet, but I'm now a general secretary, so I should be talking as a general secretary.
Are you still eyeing that slot?
That should be a matter for a discussion some other day, and I'll respectfully request that we have done enough about this, because I accepted the interview because we're coming to discuss national issues. We have spent some time on NDC. I want us to make progress.
But according to our about all the other issues as well. But this is also an important issue that your party members will want to.
I'm saying that I'm not here because of my party.
Okay, so let's go into the national issues. Definitely we'll come back to this, because this is an issue that, at least flag bearer issue, your slot also is very important for others. So we'll talk about it. But issues about Dumso is one question that I've seen. I'm sure that my producers will put it up. Sure. They're asking what you think about the explanations that has been given by government, for instance, for that. Issues about the election petition has also come up that we'll talk about. So since you really want to talk about the national issues, let's get into it.
I really want to talk about, the school reopening or lack of it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So we'll start with Dumso.
Dumso is here by choice. It is the choice of MPP that Dumso should happen the way it is happening now.
By choice.
It is their actions and inactions that have led to this Dumso. And I'm surprised that they are trying to run away from the consequences of their actions. We have freedom of choice. You can choose a certain course of action. But God has not given us the power to determine the consequences of our action. We have the choice to make. Okay, if you are traveling and you pass through the Kasua road, you cannot end up in Tamale. If you want to go through in Sawam, you cannot end up in Aflao. So you have the right to choose, but every choice comes along with its consequences. Dumso is happening. What are the reasons they are giving? They are saying that they are doing, first of all, the definition of Dumso. They think that what is happening is not Dumso.
It's not Dumso.
What is the meaning of Dumso? Dumso is an account word, isn't it? Dum na so. Lights go off, lights come on. Now MPP is trying to let us believe that Dumso means where there is insufficient generation capacity, then that is Dumso. But when the lights are going off because of transmission and distribution, that is not Dumso. I don't understand it. If the fault is coming from generation or transmission or distribution, which of them will not lead to the lights going off and the lights coming on? All of them.
So there's some maintenance that the engineers are asking for.
Who is responsible for that maintenance? In the first place, some of the explanations they are giving out, with all due respect, doesn't make sense. Because you see, and the MPP politicians are now afraid to talk.
Why?
Because they have hanged themselves. They are now afraid to talk. So they are pushing poor public servants to go and mess themselves up. Everybody in this country, you are talking about improving the system, building new substations and new transmission lines, and so that is leading to Dumso. How does it contribute to Dumso? Because if you are building a new substation somewhere, the substation, when you are building substation or new power line, okay, you will not be working on the existing power line. You are putting in place new infrastructure. And until you finish putting in place that infrastructure, you don't touch the line that is there. So how does your building of a substation somewhere contribute to Dumso? It doesn't. It is after you have finished the new line or finished the new substation and you want to change over. And that will take you not less than a week to do. You understand?
But then you tell everybody the recommendations of the engineers. They are asking for the power to go off so they can work on it.
Why? Because you are, this power line is here. You are also building some substation here. Which engineer will recommend that unless you put this line off, I cannot work on this?
But that's the recommendation they say.
It is not. They are lying to Ghanaians. They don't have any reason, so they have to lie. If you tell one lie, you need several lies to maintain the lie. It has been said that two things that are difficult to maintain in life is lies and luxury. Lies and luxury. If you lie, one lie, you need 10 more lies to sustain that lie.
But in this
and each of the 10 lies will need 10 more lies to sustain.
So even the engineers are telling us lies.
Engineering, is it not based on common sense? So if the engineers are telling you something that does not make sense, why would you believe it? Ask them. The substation, new substations they are building, are they building them on the existing power lines? They are building new substations and building new pylons and laying new cables. It is after that has been made that you change over into the new thing. So if you are buying a new car, you are traveling in a VIP, you get to Nsanwam, there is a breakdown. When they ask you why is this breakdown, you say that they are buying a new VIP. That is why we cannot move. That is why we have a tie bets or this engine failure, because they are buying new VIP. It doesn't make sense, with all due respect. Because I have also been I have been chairman of Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament for 4 years. I know what I'm talking about. And I've been chairman of Bui Board too, you are aware.
Yes.
So if people are telling you something that doesn't make sense, you should be courageous to ask them the relevant questions. Bring the engineers here and ask them.
But
follow them with your cameras.
Listen, follow them. That does not make you an expert.
I'm saying that follow them. It's common sense. It's not expertise.
Okay.
It's common sense. If you follow the engineers with the cameras to the places where they are building the substations, can't you ask them how the new construction affects lights being put off and on? Can't you ask that question? Your FM should follow them with cameras and ask the relevant questions. If they are building new transmission lines, it has nothing to do with the existing transmission line. You are building a brand new transmission line. It is after you have completed that line that you switch over. So whilst you are building it, you can't come and tell, and the existing one is failing. It's failing because of lack of maintenance. And it is failing because some of them equipment have reached their
obsolete.
Their what do you call it? Their life, expectancy or whatever it is. Listen, in 2014, there was this assessment, and we realized that, look, some of the equipment of GridCo will go obsolete at this time. GridCo needs expansion and so on and so on and so on. So when the Americans decided to give us the Millennium Compact, we agreed with them that we will devote the whole 500 million to the power sector, so that we can improve the power sector and avoid some of these problems. We got to a point. The Millennium Compact required that the perennial problem of, spending more money than we recruit from the power system must be dealt with. So that was what led to some increases in tariffs, the establishment of ESLA levy to be able to pay the debt overhang and so on, so that we can make progress. MPP went all over promising that we are wicked people. That is why we are increasing electricity tariffs. They will reduce it. And when they won, 2017, this problem started in 2017. In 2016, go and look at all the power sector institutions. Their balance sheets were blue.
But from what you understand, do you think that the situation could get worse?
It could get worse because they have neglected the existing system, and we have gotten to some stage of obsolescence, and we shouldn't have reached there before these new ones come on board. So in 2017, when they decided to reduce tariffs, we spoke about it. And they said that, they have negotiated gas prices down, blah, 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 blah. All was a lie. They didn't do anything. So, and you cannot, there is no free lunch in America. You
everywhere.
See, you got to pay for it. So if you deceive yourself that we are reducing these tariffs, who will pay? You must decide. And you refuse to pay. So GridCo management appeared before Parliament, a parliamentary committee, and they declared before the parliamentary committee that they will have to suspend all their capital projects because of that tariff reduction. They won't have money to do it. If they had done it at that time, by now the switchover have happened and we won't have no problem. So what is happening is the breakdown of the existing system at a time when the new things haven't happened. We lost, because of that reduction, we lost several facilities I believe one was from France. And as a result, because they were taking the money on the strength of the balance sheet. But their incomes were reduced because of the tariff reduction. And so nobody will give you that money. So it didn't come. And the management came to declare that they will have to stop all the capital projects. That time we didn't have. It happened to ECG, it happened to Gridco, it happens to the people they are forcing to talk. They are not sincere with us. Doomso had come. And this one has come because of the negligence of this government. It is because of the actions and their inactions that has led us into this situation. And so they must own up. The politicians must be speaking as well.
And not just...
They should not be pushing. And you see, the way they have compromised state institutions, didn't we make noise about it? You change all the leadership in the power sector and put your stooges there. So the stories they are telling you is the parliamentarian, is the politician stories that are being told, except that the people are coming with the face of not being politicians. What is the difference?
You accuse engineers of not having a mind of your own. They're only speaking the language of politicians.
I'm not accusing all engineers. I'm accusing those
so far.
If they are not supposed to speak the language of MPP, why would MPP change the leadership when they came to power?
When NDC comes, don't you change the
No, I'm saying that. They are saying the same thing. It is the same thing. You can't speak against the position of your minister.
Okay.
You will lose your job. That is why the things they are saying, they themselves know those things don't make sense. And they are still forced to say them.
Okay, so away from energy, we talk about education.
Education to what is happening is the creation.
We've heard the GES apologize for that. They asked the children to come to school the day of reopening. They went.
What is the minister saying? What is the minister saying?
What has he said? I haven't heard the minister just yet.
Have you ever heard GES going on platform saying that free SHS is their project? Why is the free SHS problems coming now and they expect the GES to be talking and the ministers
They haven't said it's a free SHS issue.
Right. They have opened school.
Wait, we are told that the Conference of Heads of Assisted Schools suggested to the GES that they cannot have the children coming at the time that they were supposed to come. And so that is why the reopening have been delayed. That's the explanation.
So between the conference and the government, who is responsible for what is happening?
What's your reading of the whole situation?
It's the government. The conference, is it the first time the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools are speaking to this government? Is that the first time? When the free SHS was introduced and they were not having grants to feed the existing students, what happened? Didn't the government threaten that if you make noise, you will lose your job? So please,
they threatened the heads of the schools.
I am telling you, if you make noise, you will go home. So don't deceive anybody. They shouldn't deceive anybody that this one is coming from Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools. Let me tell you, where was the conference when the timetable, the date for the reopening of schools was being proposed, the first one? Where were they? Why didn't they talk? What did the conference say? Why did the conference wait till the day of the reopening that has been announced?
They didn't wait till the reopening.
Then who did?
They said they had proposed that they change it, but GES did not communicate that. It was until that day. So the chart has mentioned that it wasn't that day that.
So who is running government? Is it GES, government,
or Education
charts?
Service is running education issues. They are into the.
They are not. It is government that is running. If Ghana Education Service is running education issues, why was the Director General changed when they came to power, MPP came to power? Why was he changed? He was changed because they are bringing somebody who believes in what they believe in and who will speak the language of the new government. So it doesn't matter who is talking, whether it is the minister or GES or CHAS It's the same thing.
So it's a problem of you politicians. When you come, you change
we are not, this is not a problem of we politicians. It is a problem of MPP politicians. Okay. Because we complain about it. Who haven't they changed in this country? They have changed to even change the person who should be policing the national accounts, the auditor general.
You just mentioned
they have changed everybody.
But earlier you mentioned that the speaker cannot work with people or his opponents. So if they are also working with people that they feel comfortable with, that's wrong.
These are designed to be independent state institutions, which should be insulated from partisan politics. They are different things. Parliament is a state institution which is the arena for multi-party politics. That is where you play politics. You understand? So there are different things altogether. But if you go to change auditor general who is supposed to work on your accounts to pass and put your own person there.
They changed him?
Yes, they did.
I'm sure you remember the circumstances that led.
What circumstances?
He said he is due for retirement and all.
Do you know the board chairman who is arguing that this man is due for judgment? He was appointed the first time as Auditor General when he was over 60 years. His initial appointment was made when he was over 60 years. We complained about it. I even took the matter to court.
Exactly.
He remained there. The time he was retiring, he was over getting to 66 years. Now you get the opportunity to be a board chairman. And you are now crying that somebody is 59 and a half years, so he must go home. He's a Togolese, he's this, he's this. What country are we living in? You understand? So I'm saying that this GS problem, are you saying that professionally? I am a professional teacher as well. Are you saying that the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools did not know the conditions as at the time the government or whoever announced the reopening of schools? What
do you think is the real problem? The
real problem is that there is no infrastructure to accommodate them.
Okay.
And this infrastructure was what we were doing. And the government, MPP came out and said that what we were doing was wrong. And that they can accommodate people and do double track, what track. By now, they should be doing the red track. Because even the double track, the first track and the second track, green and yellow, is developing these challenges. Because the second year people would have to, the batch that is there, they will have to vacate to provide accommodation for the third year people. That is why they have to bring the third year people home at a time they are preparing for final exams.
Yeah.
You understand? So they should have announced a third track so that these new people will enter that third track. We warned them about all this, so they went in with their eyes open. So many of these problems that are coming, they are coming because they were created by MPP in their first term. And they are now faced with it. Perhaps they thought that let us do whatever it takes, to let people applaud us, let us, so that by the time the repercussions will be coming, we will be away. In Tree, we say that Oba on cherry awadiasi, utubanchi awunya.
To wait.
It means that the woman who does not intend to remain long under a marriage, when she approves cassava, she doesn't replant. You understand? So by the time this crop of cassava will be finished, she will be gone. So she doesn't care whether the next woman will have cassava to eat or not. So that was what MPP was planning. They thought that the challenges of this Dumso will come to haunt NDC. If we were in power today, they will be all over the place that you see Nanado's, when Nanado was here, you didn't see Dumso. Now that Mahama or somebody else has come, Dumso has returned and so on. Now,
so this is a blessing in this.
Dumso go, Dumso come.
Okay.
Nanado go, Nanado come. So that is what he's being invited to face the consequences of his actions and inactions.
We'll take a very quick break here on the probe. We'll return with the General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Aseidu Nketia. Please stay. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us here on the probe. We are in the dying embers of the show, and the General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Aseidu Nketia, is with me in the studio. So let's move on to some other issues briefly, and then we can wrap up for tonight.
Okay.
So briefly, we'll talk about the election petition. There were a number of issues that came up, I'm sure, after that. But first, I would want to find out your view about the entire process at the Supreme Court.
The entire process, in my view, represents a mistrial. The ends of justice has not been served at all, and the country is the loser. You see, one of the challenges we have been battling with is the potential of violence during elections. And anytime we are approaching elections, you see civil society organizations, faith-based organizations, prominent pastors, chiefs, practically everybody coming around to be appealing. Let's do peace work, let's do peace squatting, peace this, peace that, peace that. But you see, if you don't tackle the problem at its source, those peace work, peace this, peace that, will not solve the problem. And the way we are going, we are sitting on a time bomb.
Are we?
Do you know why violence comes about? Society is organized in such a way that there are laws, so that we all agree that our conduct will be regulated by law. And when anybody offends the law, there is somebody who will decide that, no, this conduct is offensive, this one is not offensive. Okay. So the work of that person who is the referee is very, very critical. Whether that society will break down or continue to be law-abiding depends on the criminal justice system in the country. So when you go to any country where there is a resort to instant justice, it should tell you that the criminal justice system is not working.
Well, when are you going
you go to...
Unfortunately, we have to rush this. Okay. When are you going to publish your collated results? Because we're told that you have it. Don't you think that doing that will help plan ahead and spearhead structural and practical solutions for the...
Publish them for the consumption of who?
Because that's what we're told. You said you had it.
I'm saying that. So now you are asking me why we are going to publish. I'm saying publish it for the consumption or education of...
know that this is exactly
why should you be interested in our results?
Why shouldn't we? You
were not interested in what was happening. In court. The person who organized the elections had and declared results about 6 times. Somebody says he should not face the nation and account for his actions, and you all were quiet. And the person issued a threat that anybody who will discuss the outcome of this will be sanctioned. And you are all quiet. You are still quiet today.
We are talking about it, aren't we talking about it? How are we quiet? We are talking.
You have invited me to talk about it. On your own, have you talked about it? So, so my point is, there is no magic to ensure peace during elections.
Well, what mathematics?
What you have to do before to ensure.
Your own supporters are asking you to put it out because they want to know what exactly you had. For which reason you went to court?
Who are our supporters?
We have some of our supporters. They call themselves the cadres or so. They went on. They give you 14-day ultimatum for that to happen.
So it has expired. So what has happened?
Result,
I am saying that. Listen. why should a group of Ghanaians, busybodies, organize and take plaques? Because they don't belong to our party. They don't belong to our party. Why should some busybodies organize and then go and stand somewhere insulting Mahama, insulting everybody, and say that, and then we will feel bound by what they are saying? Okay. They don't belong to our party. I'm saying that they don't belong to our party.
Okay.
You understand?
As a staff,
so they cannot determine what we should be doing.
Okay.
And I'm saying that, look, that trial was a mistrial.
A mistrial.
When they asked, when I was being confronted with some statements I have made, my lawyer said that by parity of reasoning, we also have tapes to confront the other side with. And the court agreed. What happened? What happened?
Has the NDC...
I say what happened? That's why I'm saying that it's a mistrial. There were statements by the other side, by the commissioner, the chairperson of the commission herself, by McManu representing the president herself, and so on. In Akan, we said that you don't tie one tuber of yam. What they did in court was trying to tie one tuber of yam. It doesn't need any tying. So,
who was tying one tuber of yam?
The Supreme Court was trying to tie one tuber of yam, because you need tying when there are more than one tubers.
It doesn't look like the NDC has moved on, or
no. I'm saying that
issue.
I'm saying that you can't move on.
Okay.
The reason why you can't. The reason why you can't move on is that you know that the repercussions of what is happening now will come to face us.
Are there any other things that you're hoping to do when it comes to this? Because when we heard Mr. Mahama speak that day, lawyers will come
the whole nation
and tell us
will walk,
what exactly
the whole nation will walk into the problem in 4 years' time. The whole nation will walk into the problem, and we will feel vindicated. Because you see, when post-election adjudication is very, very important to prevent electoral violence.
Okay.
You understand? Because you see, it's a contest. People would exercise patience and not resort to their own designs when they see that things are going wrong, because they have confidence that even after the process, if they don't stop it after the process, there's somebody who helped them to do the corrections. If they have been cheated, there's somebody who will correct it. Okay. But if we are walking into a situation where whoever wins by whatever means remains, then we are preparing the ground for a violent election in future. Because those who feel that they are being cheated will not stay and allow the cheating to happen. Okay. They will resort to whatever means to ensure that the cheating doesn't happen. Okay. If we are going to live in a system where electoral commission, once they announce anything, even if they decide to change it several times, that remains final. Then who will sit there for electoral commission to announce?
Okay, we're wrapping up. Finally, I asked you earlier.
We are working in dangerous waters.
Do you think that Mr. Mahama should still put himself up as flag bearer? There were some conspiracies that you are going to be a vice a running mate to one of the candidates and all. Do you think that
some people are just joking? Some people are just joking. You know, I don't want to mention names, but I have serious problem with whatever analysis Paul Adomochiri has been making on his show. He cuts across as somebody who has been hired by somebody to just create mischief in NDC. And that is what we see there. Okay. Who gave him the authority to be doing the parents? Okay. And mentioning people. And then, you know, Mahama had a running mate. Okay. Has Mahama come to tell you that in case he wins, he wants to change the running mate? Okay. Who is Adom Ochiri to be dictating who will stand where and who will be the running mate? Have you ever heard that in NDC, when we are going for any contest, the flag by possible candidate choose their running mate even before going into the contest? At least you have an idea. They don't do it. Okay. So I'm saying
will you still be the general secretary of the NDC in the next election?
I want to communicate clearly to NDC followers that they should ignore all the analysis that Paul Adomachi is doing. It is born out of some mischief, and they shouldn't follow it.
Okay, we'll leave it here. Will you still be the General Secretary of the NDC? I still eyeing that slot.
Comes, we will talk
I still eyeing it, or you'll be the flag bearer.
Would you continue to be here tomorrow?
That's Mr. Aseidu Nketia, General Secretary of the NDC. We'll leave it here. Thank you very much for your time. I am MF Papa. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com.